righty. So hopefully everyone can see that.
Yep.
Awesome. Fantastic. All righty. So hi, everyone. Welcome to our spring info night. This is going to be our last info night of the academic year. And we have a lot of exciting events and submission deadlines and applications and a lot of fun stuff to talk about that we'll get into throughout the hour. We'll probably end with 35 or 40 minutes in. So the goal is to have plenty of time for everyone's questions. And we will stay on until everyone has a chance to get their questions answered. So just to start out with a little bit about us, actually, before I do that, let me introduce myself. During the fall info night, I went the whole time without telling people who I was, so that was a little bit embarrassing. I am Daniel Ehrenstein. I am a fifth-year neurobiology, physiology, and behavior major. I am doing my emphasis in neurobiology, and I am doing a minor in professional writing as well. I will be graduating in June and then pursuing a career in science research or science communication. So both very relevant to the things that happen here at the Aggie Transcript. So the Aggie Transcript, it's a student-run life sciences journal for undergraduates at UC Davis, and we publish student news, writing. Sorry, I'm just letting people in from the wait room. Student news writing, research, reviews, as well as art, photography, and even poetry we've published in the past as well. So you may be asking why join the Aggie Transcript or get involved in some way with the journal. One of the best things that we offer is lots of science writing experience to students. And this shows up on your resume or your CV as publications. And this is a really powerful thing to have as an accomplishment in your undergraduate years, especially if you're considering graduate school or medical school or research positions after undergrad. This position also involves a lot of transferable skills, including teamwork, communication, deadlines. It's a very collaborative process, and we are in constant communication with each other as team members. And so you'll have a chance to, if you do end up joining the team at some point, you'll have a chance to learn a lot about those skills. We just had our faculty advisor join. I don't know if she's ready to unmute, but if you are Dr. Burgess, feel free to introduce yourself. And if you'd like, you can talk about the history of the Aggie Transcript as well.
Okay, sorry for joining late. Good to see you guys. Thanks for coming tonight. Yeah, so I've been the faculty advisor for the Aggie Transcript since I think its inception around 2013. So we've been around a while. It kind of started out with a class, MCB 121, that I teach advanced molecular biology, which probably some of you have taken or will take. And I was interested in helping students find ways that they could publish their work. And I knew that a lot of students were writing really excellent papers in their UWP classes. And I also knew that it would be really advantageous for students to be able to put publications on their resumes and their CVs. And so we kind of conceived of this club, the Aggie Transcript, and so we started out with a small group, and sorry, my husband hammering, I don't know if you can hear that. We started out with a small group who kind of conceived of the idea, the mission statement for the journal, and basically they went live for pretty soon after that and started publishing papers. We over the years we've had some UWP faculty come and advise us, and at least come and run editing workshops with the group, which has been very helpful. And then in, I guess, 2016, we put out, or 2017, so we put out our very first print edition, which was an amazing event. I mean, it was just so wonderful to see this goal that the students had to put out this, to put this all together, and they did it. And I think now you guys are putting together the 5th print edition, if this is correct. So
Yeah, that's correct.
yeah, so it's just amazing. I mean, to see these volumes in person and hold them is just, they're really, really special. And especially last year's, the Decade in Review was, I mean, you have a high bar to pass that, to top that one. That one was fantastic. And so the group has grown a lot, and in 2017, I guess, the group won an award from the chancellor on advancing academic and career goals. And there also have been several articles written about the Aggie Transcript that have been posted on the College of Biological Sciences webpage. So I've been really happy to be involved with the group. Mostly they just do everything, and I kind of hang out in case, they want any advice or, whatever they need, I'm here for them. But it's been really great for me to be able to interact with the editorial board, the editor-in-chief, the treasurers, the managing editors. For me, it's been really special to get to know these students really well. And of course, having all this experience to putting on your resumes makes a really big difference. And it really is the employers and admission committees members, they really look at this on your resume, and they comment on it, and they ask questions about it, and it really it's really noticed. And I think that it has helped students in getting jobs and getting admissions. So I'm happy to answer any questions if you guys have it, but really it's these editors, this editorial board. I mean, these guys, they run it all. So I should hand it back over to them.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Burgess. And yeah, as Dr. Burgess mentioned, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat or raise your hand. I'm not sure if I'll see the raised hands, but rest assured we will answer all the questions that come in. So next we're going to talk a little bit about the submission types that we receive. I briefly mentioned this at the beginning. So that we have a few categories that we publish, mainly news, features, our science and society section, as well as reviews. News covers recent topics, recent discoveries and research in the biological sciences. Feature writing is a little bit more in depth. It's the long form interviews, profile stories of a scientist, as well as undergraduate research and case study reports as well. The Science and Society section was actually a fairly recent creation, and this section of our journal was created to create space for articles that explore biological research or scientific topics or issues and how they impact society. And then finally, we have a reviews section, which includes book reviews, so reviews of popular science books, as well as literature reviews, that, look at a large body of scientific literature and make conclusions from that about where a field is at. And then, of course, we also accept art and photography. We've received a lot of beautiful nature shots in the past few years, and these look incredible in our print edition. And of course, they're also published online as well. And so these are some spreads from our most recent print edition from last year. And this is just to give everyone an example of some of the art that we published in the past. We received this lovely watercolor bird series last year. And as you can see, we paired it with an article about invasive species and CRISPR gene editing. This one was about the history of alchemy. So really interesting topic. You might not, expect to see that in a journal, but one of our editors, Reshma, had a great article here that connected it to biological sciences. And then here up in the upper right is another artwork that we received from one of our team members. So if you are interested in submitting to the journal, all the details that you need are on our website, but we will review them here as well. So students, you can submit writings from your previous classes. I think a lot of people don't realize that, but it is a great way to publish work that you've spent, dozens of hours working on anyway. So if you've ever taken a UWP class or you're planning to take one for your upper division writing requirement, the writing that you do in UWP 102B, writing in biology, or 104E, writing in science, 102G, environmental writing, a lot of great writing comes out of those classes and is often very well polished and great submissions to the Aggie transcript. For art submissions, we ask that they be scanned using a printer or a scanner. The reason for this is so that we can ensure the quality of the art when it's printed in a journal. And, of course, these are available on campus. I'm not sure if they are, technically available right now. But if you have concerns with accessing a scanner this year, given the circumstances, feel free to reach out to us. Our email is at the bottom of the slide there, and I will remind you all of that email frequently tonight. So I think by the end of the hour, you'll have that email in your mind. All righty. I think I've done enough talking so far, so I'm actually going to pass it off to our managing editor, Aditi, to take over for a few slides.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Aditi. I'm a third year here at Davis. I'm studying genetics and statistics. And like Daniel mentioned, I'm the managing editor, and I'm also in charge of the print production. So basically, me and my team are the ones responsible for ensuring that we have a physical journal by the end of the year. So that process is underway, and if you have questions, I will be more than happy to answer them about that. But for now, the editorial process that we go through for each paper is relatively straightforward. It's pretty well detailed here in this pipeline, but it starts with a submission. So that's what you guys would submit to us via email. Once we receive it, we anonymize the papers and review them. So the review process is basically our entire editorial board will read your paper, we'll have a discussion, and we vote. I believe it's a majority rules vote, so if most of the board likes your paper, it's accepted, at which point 2 editors are assigned to your paper, and we're giving you feedback on your paper. So feedback can range from grammatical points like, you know, this sentence is really long, maybe break it up into 2 things, or just like quick grammar corrections. And it can also range all the way up to, you know, asking you to do some rewrites considering, you know, the content of your article. Like, for example, sometimes we have to ask people to go more in depth in the biological applications of the topic that they're referring to. And so there's a wide range, but the point being that our editors will walk you through every step of that process. So once you make edits, you have a week to make your revisions, then we edit again, then you revise again. And this cycle continues, typically about 3 rounds in total, until your paper is ready to be published. Once we think it's ready, it'll be published on our website. And then at some point throughout the year, if our editorial board thinks your paper is worthy of our print production, we'll reach out to you and let you know that we're planning on publishing your paper in the print edition as well. So that's the process in a nutshell. So coming back to the print edition, like Daniel and Dr. Burgess mentioned, we have made 5 print editions now. The one most to the left, the Decade in Review, is the edition we released last fall, I think. And because it was 2020, we decided to use that edition to cover a decade in science. So some of the most important discoveries, in our opinions, from 2010 to 2020. If you have time, I would highly recommend you check it out on our website. The PDF is up there, and you can get a feel for how we do our features, how we write our articles, etc. And this year we are working on a COVID edition because, you know, why wouldn't we be? But that's anticipated to be released around July. Next slide, please. You want me to do this, Daniel, or do you want to take over?
I can hop back in for this one. So a lot of the remaining time in our info session is going to be talking about how to apply to the board, as well as other dates and deadlines. So the first position that we have available that we are currently recruiting applicants for is the editor position. The editors make up the bulk of the editorial board. They review submissions each quarter. You'll write a new submission. And then in addition to that, you'll help with planning and publicizing events like the Infinite, for example, and writing grant and aid applications as well. If some of these responsibilities seem unfamiliar to you, I would not let that stop you from applying, especially the grant applications is actually something that our treasurer handles more than anyone else. And anything that you're not familiar with, members of the board will train you to do. So don't let that be a barrier to applying if you are interested in learning more about science editing and science writing. We do ask that you be able to attend meetings for your first quarter as a board member. We actually, board meeting attendance is mandatory, but there are exceptions for specific cases. But especially your first quarter, it's really important to be able to attend meetings to learn our processes, the way we run our operations, etc. And if you are interested, we do offer a unit of credit per quarter. There's two ways to get it. It's either through MCB, which is just a upper division group study unit, or you can also do a unit through the UWP writing internship class, quote unquote. It's not really a class, but it is a unit nonetheless. Alrighty, and then the next position that we'll talk about is the designer applications, and Aditi is our resident expert on this. So
yeah, so basically this year is when we created our print and design team officially, given how successful and popular our print edition has been. So we are recruiting for designers. Primarily, there's two different design positions. One is for print and one is for graphics. This is like super important. Experience is not required for either of these positions. It is helpful, obviously, because it'll help with when you're being trained, but you're going to be trained regardless. So yeah, if you are interested in graphic design or visual communication at all, I encourage you to definitely apply, or if you just want to find out more about the positions, you can email us at any time, and we can connect with you one-on-one and tell you more about the role. But your main responsibilities include just assisting with the print edition production, which is typically a year-round process from fall to spring, creating graphics for basically all of our articles, not really select. And you'll be using applications like PowerPoint, InDesign, BioRender. You may occasionally be using Photoshop and Illustrator as well. So if you're thinking about applying and you have experience in any of these programs, let us know, because that's definitely something we'd like to see.
So I think now is a good time for us. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I think now is a good time for us to actually just switch over to the website. Well, actually, let's talk about figures, and then we can make that switch. Sorry.
Okay. You're good. So these are examples of two figures from last year's print edition that our graphics team made. Believe it or not, I still have a hard time believing it, but these are both made on PowerPoint. So the one on the upper right was given to us as a rough draft by an author, literally drawn with pencil on a piece of lined notebook paper. And our fantastic graphics team basically took that image and recreated it into this professional looking graphic that you see here. So if that transformation is something you're interested in participating in, definitely apply, because like we said, experience is not required. And here's two more graphics. These were hand drawn.
All right, now we'll switch over to the website because, oops, we currently have submissions open for our cover art for this year's print edition. And so I'm going to pull up that page, and Aditi is going to talk about our cover art submission contest.
Yes. Once it loads. Okay. So this year, we decided that it would be kind of cool to open up our cover art as a campus-wide competition. So the beautiful DNA image that you see last year was drawn by one of our editors who graduated. But because it's the COVID edition and we're all virtual, we thought it would be a really cool way to kind of get other people involved in a part of our journal. So we have a cover art competition. All of our information is on the website. As soon as you open up the website, the first slider has like a click here for more information, and it'll take you to this page. But there's just a few guidelines and suggestions that we have, which Daniel will scroll through, but it tells you about the size and what our requirements are. Really, we only have 2 requirements this year. One is that we're only accepting digital art. This is again because of the limited access there is to high quality scanners. And because it's our cover, we really need to make sure that the image itself is at a really high image quality. So digital art only for this year. But that has a lot of options built in, as you can see. And that the cover art must be connected to the COVID pandemic in some way, shape, or form. Because this is the COVID edition, we really want to make sure that it fits our theme. So you can interpret that however you'd like. We've had quite a few very creative interpretations of COVID art. What we don't want to see, however, is just a rendering of the COVID-19 virus, like these 2 magazines have done. It looks great. I'm not trying to bash on Scientific American or anything, but it's been done, right? So we want to get a little bit of originality, a little bit of creativity. So as long as it's not just the COVID molecule, you'll be fine. Obviously, you can use the COVID viral molecule as a part of your design, but not the entire thing. These are the colors we'll be using this year. There's a yellow if you keep scrolling. You don't have to use these exact colors if you don't want to, but we suggest that you pick colors that either follow this color scheme or complement it, because that's how the inside of the journal will look. And we've linked a few resources for you to check out. These dark and light background PNGs are templates with our logo and masthead on them. So if you're drawing and you want to see what your art would look like as a cover, all you need to do is download it and stick it on top of your image. It's a transparent background, so it shouldn't be an issue. And then you can basically, test it out on your own and see if you need to make any changes. And then, once you're ready, there's a Google form linked in yellow, I think, right there. But you'll just upload your art to that Google form, fill out a quick little author's note explaining, the story behind your art, and our board will vote. As an incentive, every single art piece that we get will be published on our website and our social media. So this is free publicity for you and your art. The winner, however, will be put on our cover. And the deadline, as you can see, is April 27th at 12 p.m. noon.
Yes, assuming a connection to COVID-19 or the pandemic, of course, on being published on our website and social media. The plan is to have a gallery of sorts. And it's also quite possible that even if we don't select your piece for the cover, that it could be published within our journal as well, like on the inside. Alrighty, I'm going to switch us back over to the slideshow, but just to clarify a few questions that we got in the chat real quick. For meetings, they are at a set day and time for a particular quarter. So we have like a spring quarter meeting time. It is Tuesdays, 7 to 8 p.m. If you are applying this cycle, it's ideal that you are available at that time so that you can join the board this quarter and participate in those this quarter's meetings. Because spring quarter has already started and we've already gotten going, if you do apply and we accept you and you can't make that time this quarter, we'll just bring you on as soon as your availability lines up with our meetings.
Yeah, and if you're applying as a designer, either print or graphics, our design meetings this quarter are Mondays 9 to 10 p.m., which is a gnarly time, I fully admit, but that is the only time we were available. So again, it's the same process. If you want to be a part of this year's print edition, it's going to be mandatory to make those 9 p.m. meetings. If not, no worries. We'll just start you when it all lines up.
All righty, let me get back into presentation mode. All right, so another one of the positions that we are recruiting for at this time is photographers. If you are looking for an experience with the board that is more than just an hour or two per week, I would encourage you to apply for an additional position in addition to the photographer position, because this will be fairly small and sort of like on a as needed basis. But your responsibility would be to help supply us with photos for our social media, as well as for our print edition to accompany the topics that are being written about. And so, as you can imagine, that can vary a whole lot. Hopefully, when the pandemic is winding down and people are able to be on campus again, we'll be able to request like time with a professor if we're writing about their research, so that we can have photos of the scientists that we're talking about, or photos from their lab. But for the time being, it's mostly nature shots and other environmental topics. Alrighty. And then I think the last position that we are recruiting for at this time is social media. So we're looking for social media help next year. Our Instagram is what's shown on the left here. And the goals of our social media are to really increase the exposure of the writing and the art that we're publishing to the campus community here at UC Davis, and showcase the work that both our editorial board and our authors and artists are doing year round. This is another one of those positions where I think you're more than welcome to indicate interest in your application to the board in both social media and something else, if you're interested. But by all means, if you're just interested in social media, that can be a whole position in and of itself. So as far as applying goes, there are certain things that we ask for from the applicants for any of the positions. Those three things are one, a resume, two, a cover letter, and in your cover letter, you'll talk about why you're interested in joining the editorial board of the Aggie Transcript, what you hope you can bring to the journal in your role, and also what you hope to gain from the experience. And definitely don't skip out on that last question, because we really would like to hear what you want to get out of the experience as well. And then also, please do indicate which roles you are interested in, or which roles you're applying to, so that we know how to consider your application. The third thing we'll ask for from everyone is your class schedule for the quarter that you're applying in. And if you have your schedule for fall, I don't think anyone will be by the time you apply this quarter, if you do. So just your spring schedule will be good for now. And like we said before, if you have a conflict with our meeting times this quarter, I would still apply, and we can, we'll bring you onto the team as soon as we can. Sorry, my words are not working right now. And you'll want to email all of these materials to aggietranscript@gmail.com. The last thing is an example of relevant work. So this is going to depend on the position that you're applying to. For the editor position, we want that to be a writing sample, science writing of some kind if possible, but by no means is that required. Any writing sample that demonstrates your ability to write is a good writing sample. For the designer position, if you have samples of your design or illustration work, or even art, that would be an amazing thing to include in your application. And then for the photography and social media positions, similar sorts of things. For photography, if you have any portfolio with your photos, that would be an awesome thing to include in your application. And for social media, if you have any examples of past social media engagement work, that would be awesome. If you don't have those examples, try and, I think, find something that you can submit as part of your application, but we'll still review your application if you don't have samples. I think for the editor application, we really do want to see writing samples, but for the design, photography, and social media positions, these samples are less important because we do put focus on training.
Yeah, can I just jump in on that real quick?
Absolutely.
So I think we may have forgotten to put it in the slides this time, but if you are interested in either of the design positions and you don't have experience, that's okay. There's a supplementary task that we have for you. If so, maybe we'll email it out with our post meeting notes. But basically what we're asking you to do is scroll through our most recent print edition, which is a 2020 Decade in Review, and just give us a brief commentary on what you think about the design, what you think it does well and where you think it can improve. Basically, this is just helping us gauge how much you understand about visual communication and your mindset about, or your perspective, I guess is a better word, on how we're approaching our design decisions. So if you don't have any samples, and it doesn't have to be very long, maybe like 200, 300 words, summarizing your opinions, and you can submit that to us as well instead, and that'll be viewed at the same level a design sample is viewed.
We will make sure to include the details of what Aditi just said in the post-meeting email to everyone, where I'll send out the recording. It has been on our website in the past on the apply page. It's not currently there, and so we'll add it back there as well in the next day or two. Alrighty, so if there's one slide to screenshot, this would probably be the one. Here are our upcoming dates and deadlines for the quarter. So for board apps, any of the positions that we mentioned, during the presentation, we'll have the applications due on Friday, April 16th at midnight. So that is a week from this Friday. Like we mentioned, for that, it'll be a resume, cover letter, your course schedule, and any relevant samples. And you can email that to aggietranscript@gmail.com. For the cover art, the deadline is set for April 27th at noon. Our final article submissions deadline of the year is May 4th at noon. And just to clarify about the article submissions deadline and the art submissions deadline that's on May 25th at noon, both of those deadlines are deadlines to submit by if you would like your submission to be considered for print inclusion in this year's edition. If you send writing or art in after these deadlines, we will still review it. We will still accept it if it's up to our standards for acceptance, and you will still be published online once you've gone through the editing process. And it would be considered for print publication, just not until next year's print edition. So because of our print production timeline, we do have to set deadlines for inclusion or potential inclusion in the print edition. But other than that, we accept submissions on a rolling basis throughout the year. You can literally submit anytime and probably receive a response within 1 to 2 weeks. So that's just something to keep in mind if you're feeling like these deadlines are not possible.
And for graduating students or seniors, if you submit, post May 4th or May 25th, and we accept your article, we may still print it in the 2022 edition, even though you have graduated. So as long as you submit and your article is accepted during your time at Davis, then it's still on track to be published.
Yeah, even if you submit and within, I think, 3 or 4 months of graduation, basically one term, we consider your submissions. So there's a grace period for people who are graduating but still like maybe finishing up a writing project or something. You are able to submit until like the end of the following term. So if you're graduating in spring, that means you are able to submit to the Aggie Transcript until the end of the summer. If you're graduating in the fall, for example, you would need to submit to us by the end of the winter quarter, and so on. Alrighty, we are coming up on the end here. Just a few more slides and then we'll open it up to any questions. We are hosting a collaborative event this Saturday morning. Morning if you're on the West Coast right now, but maybe it's afternoon if you're elsewhere. It's going to be focused on scientific journalism and journal processes. So if you're interested in learning more about what scientific journalism is, how undergraduate and professional journals run their operations, if you're interested in talking about or discussing how COVID-19 and the pandemic has affected science journalism, these are some of the topics that we'll be discussing at this event on Saturday. This is actually on our social media. I think it's shared on our story. If it's not, look for GSR Journal on Instagram and they'll have this. But we'll be posting these slides or attaching them to the post info session email. So you can also find it there. Just to talk a little bit about the experiences, we are a high intensity journal that has a lot of work to do all the time, but we do like to have fun as friends. So we do host socials, usually once a quarter. You know, as the pandemic goes on and on, these photos are getting more and more outdated. But they are from winter 2020. And you can probably tell that a few of the people in these photos are still with us as board members, and others have moved on and graduated. But these are some of the, this is actually our official board photo on the left, but this is a social on the right that we had last year. And if you're interested in keeping up to date with what's going on at the journal, you're welcome to follow us on any of the social media platforms that you see here, which include Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Feel free to email us anytime at aggietranscript@gmail.com. We monitor that email frequently, and so we'll get back to you frequently with answers if you email us there. And then our website is another great resource. That is the end of what I have to share. So I'm happy to answer questions for the last 10 minutes. Also, yeah, anything that you're interested about hearing that we didn't talk about. Are we all caught up on questions from the chat?
Yep, I think so.
Awesome.
I have a quick question, and I'm very sorry if I missed the answer to this. The article submission.
Yeah, go for it.
Yes, okay. The article submission deadline. Can I have, say, you know, I'm in the process of writing something right now. If I submit it by that date, but it hasn't gone through any peer review by that point, could it still be considered for print publication?
Sorry, I'm not sure I understood the question fully.
Yeah, let me see if I can. So there's the whole, like, you submit it and then the editors decide if they want to, you know, if they review it and then they send it back to you and stuff like that. So if I have sent in the very first draft and if it's the very first time the editors are seeing it at May 4th by noon, would it still be possible to be considered for the print publication?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that is exactly the way it's planned out. So this is the latest date that we can review submissions and still have enough time to go through the editing process to be ready for print.
Okay.
So yes, this is the deadline to send us an email with your article attached. It's not the deadline to have finished the editing process with us.
All right, thank you. Yeah, that was exactly my confusion a little bit, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for asking that. That's a great opportunity for me to clarify.
I think Diana has her hand up.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't know how to ask this. So I've been sitting on an article and working on it. And it's an interview piece. It's about COVID and how it's affected the Asian American community in California specifically. And it is related to, health, but it's more about hate crimes. So I'm not sure if it is appropriate to submit the article. So I was going to ask if I should even try and submit it.
That's a tough one. I think, I mean, let me preface my response with saying that's an incredibly important topic, and I'm so glad that you're writing about it, and I hope that you're able to share that work widely. I don't think it would fall within the umbrella of work that we typically publish in our journal. So that's my honest answer based on like your description of the article. Okay. So I would definitely encourage you to look for other platforms to publish. And we do have some other journals on campus that we refer people to if they're not accepted to our journal. So if you're interested in receiving a list that I have, feel free to email Aggie Transcript at gmail.com, and I can send that to you.
Thank you.
Because we do want to see people get published and and have their work broadcast as far as wide as possible, even if it's not in the Aggie Transcript.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and also that being said, Diana, Daniel and I are just two people from our board, so our opinion doesn't necessarily constitute the entire board's opinion. So my personal advice would just be, submit it. And what's the worst that could happen is that we unfortunately don't accept it, but there's nothing that could go wrong, really, right? So if I were you, I would submit it. And usually in papers that we don't accept, we always provide feedback on how they could be modified to better fit our guidelines. And that'll be very specific to your paper in particular. So you might say like, this paragraph on the health concerns, if you can elaborate more here and maybe reduce this section here, then it would fit our guidelines. So if you are interested in publishing with us specifically, I say go for it, and then just see what happens.
Are we allowed to submit more than one article?
Yeah, you can submit however many articles you have.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, submit as many times as you want.
And then Saloni,
I think you have your hand raised.
Yeah, hello.
Hi.
So to submit by the email an article, is there a format that you would like us to, like a PDF or straight from Google Docs?
Yeah, so great question. Ideally, a Google Doc is the best because that's how we'll be editing articles. So if you want to make things like really easy on us, a Google Doc is the best way to submit your article initially. But for like that initial review, a PDF is fine, a Word doc is fine. And then if we accept your article, we'd ask for, a Google Drive document.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, so Google Drive is the best, but Word or PDF is also fine.
these are great questions, by the way.
Yeah, I fully agree. It's always helpful to know what's confusing. then we can make it less confusing next time. So we're coming up on 8 p.m. here. I'm happy to stick around for questions if there are any. In the interest of making sure that the recording isn't, super long, I'm gonna stop the recording here. But if you have any more questions, you're welcome to ask them.